I'm Erica Lamb. I'm the chair for our Reno Sparks Association of Realtors Global Committee, and I'm on the State Global Realtors Committee as well as NAR's Global Business Alliance. And as you know, Jenny is the one who got us started, Jenny Taman, and she was from Romania. And so Romania holds a special place in our heart because it's kind of what got us started in the global market locally. So I'm really excited that you're able to join us. And if it's okay, Alina, I don't want to put you on a spot. Dan wasn't able to be with us this morning. Would you mind also helping? And you and Giz, can you please, can I?
Absolutely.
Gizo.
My pleasure.
Yes. Gizo?
Gizo.
Okay, Gizo. Yes. And just kind of go over these questions together. That would be so amazing. So, okay, well then we're just going right into financing opportunities for foreigners. Like I know that I've traveled to some other countries and when I go, I try to find a lender and find out what kind of opportunities are available for me as an American to purchase property there. And can I finance it? And some countries are no, absolutely not. And some countries are like, sure, but maybe 40% down or 50% down, as long as you meet these qualifications. So I'm just curious if you know of any financing opportunities for foreigners.
I believe in countries like Romania and also the other countries of Eastern Europe, usually the financing terms, let's just say the length of the financing is somewhat shorter and requirement for down payment to foreigners is somewhat higher. So basically, if in America, you can go with a lower down payment, in countries, in East European countries, and even in some West European countries, they usually want you to put down a higher amount, north from 20, so up to 40, sometimes even 50. Obviously, like in any place in the world, cash is always king, right? But beyond those requirements, I can tell you one thing. When I travel to European countries, I feel their banking system is, and I'm not trying to offend U.S. banking system, but the way banking system works is very advanced. Nobody has the checks there, or nobody's writing checks. They don't even know what that is. I don't know. Everything goes through the debit card. They receive their salary on a card, and everything is mobile based, and they pay things with a mobile phone, and it's everything very advanced. But regarding real estate purchases, it's pretty like everywhere else. The banks have their requirements. Their interest rates are set up by the national bank. I believe nowhere interest rates are as low as in US right now, maybe in Japan. But usually the financing terms are somewhat shorter too. And it becomes a little bit tougher when you are buying commercial real estate. It may be even more requirements to come up with a fluid capital upfront with a large amount when you're buying some commercial. And same thing when you buy entire business. Am I somewhat accurate, Alina, from what I read?
Yeah, most of the time, there is cash. There are cash deals, and it's not as easy to finance for foreigners. Most people who would buy in Romania, they will form a local entity, an LLC type of, and that's advisable, and perhaps that way you can finance, and that's pretty accurate. Most of the time, the international acquisitions are done cash. But there are a lot of international banks in Romania. You see anything from ING and even US banks and so on. I mean, every corner of the street, Romania, and if you go to Eastern Europe, is very funny. But every corner of the street, you see a Bancomat, and Raiffeisen Bank, for example, is very big in Romania. ING is big in Romania. A lot of Western European banks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm just curious, does it require that you have a certain type of visa in order to purchase there? Like, for instance, do you need to be on maybe a work permit? Or what if you're just a visitor? Would they not consider financing if you're just a visitor and this is maybe going to be a second home or a vacation
You
home?
can buy. You can buy even if you just visit. You don't need to have any work visa, and based on the ownership, you can look into your visa situation to get residency.
So, with other words, you can buy anything you want, except if you are non-EU citizen, right? Alina, if you are non-EU citizen, I don't believe you can own certain type of land, right? If it's an agricultural land.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are
Unincorporated
restrictions.
land. Exactly. You're absolutely right. Agricultural, forests, lakes, and of course, seaside or shore type of land. You know, that type of land is definitely regulated and unincorporated. So you still find ways to do it. You can talk with attorneys in Romania, but forming a Romanian corporation, probably that way you would be able to do it. But they're just changing the legislation regarding unincorporated land, which is agricultural as well.
Yeah, there are more restrictions there and similar in Georgia and Moldova than in US, because I get asked these questions also from people from Europe. Can I buy in US if I don't have a green card? And yeah, you can buy whatever you want as long as you can get the financing or you can pay the cash, you can buy whatever you want. And in Romania, this would be case for EU citizens, right? If I'm a German citizen and I want to buy something in Romania, for me, probably less limits versus non-EU citizen if I'm coming from some other non-EU country. Correct, Alina?
That is correct. I mean, not only that, but you could probably run and be a mayor, you know, of a city in Romania, because I mean, that's a funny story that I would like to just say it on a side. But one of the major cities in Romania from Western Romania just elected a mayor who is a German citizen, but is not even a permanent resident. He lives half here in Romania, half here in Germany. And he was not required to be a Romanian citizen in order to be elected mayor. So you can run for local government positions if you are an EU citizen. So this gives you an idea if you can also buy real estate.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see his campaign, because somehow he needed to convince people that he had a heart for that city while he never was a permanent citizen, right?
Oh, he did. He started a lot of charity work, I believe, and has been commuting between the two cities and two countries for probably the last 10 years. And people say, no, we just don't want a Romanian mayor. We want a German mayor, and who is not even a citizen. We don't care. We just want that kind of German discipline in our city.
Yes. And there is a big connection between Germans and Romanian, because I know that there was one of the question about, minorities and cultural differences, but I won't jump there if you don't want me. But on a side note, I believe historically Romanians and Germans have lots of things going on, right? And big connection there, right?
It used to be a big community, German community in Transylvania, especially in cities like Brașov and even in Western Romania. A lot of them immigrated during communism, but now they're coming back as investors. So Germany is one of the biggest real estate investors in Romania. But I don't want to jump ahead. Erica has her questions.
Yes, Erica, you go ahead, please.
No, you guys are great. I love the extra information. One of the reasons that we have these questions in a chronological order is because we're actually going to be collecting data, or we're collecting data so that we can have information for various different countries to compare and contrast. Plus, we may have a member who says, oh, I want to look at all countries where I can purchase without need of a certain type of visa that will do financing. We'll say, hey, Romania is one of them. There you go. So
how often you have buyers like that, Erica? I mean, are they, I'm just trying to imagine, you have a big Romanian community there, right? I believe.
In the Reno area,
or in Nevada, probably.
No. There are several people that I know that are Romanians, but I can't see that there's any one particular community. I actually feel like the Reno area is pretty diversified.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're kind of we're trying to get summarized questions on some
Sure.
of these. Yeah.
Sure.
So, okay, well, perfect. Well, our next question is, what is the purchasing process? You know, who does the contracts? Do you guys use attorneys? There's escrow, there's title. It sounds like it's a really big thing in Romania for the seller to do for sale by owner, more so than using a real estate agent. But if they're going to do that, how are they going to do that? Are they going to use a title company or hire an attorney?
Or notary, right, Alina? I think attorney gets involved.
Yes.
Attorney gets
Yeah.
involved for sure, and notary gets involved for sure. And
Yep.
I also believe
Actually, notaries are attorneys in Romania.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
we say public notary, it's an attorney. That there are cabinets, notary offices all over, and regardless if you use an agent or not, you still need a notary. So they will take care of the contract. They will draft it for you, and they will also record the title. They do have a registry, a national registry, and it's very simple to record right now, and they will do it for you.
I had experience. I purchased something just a year ago back in my country, in Georgia, and I was acting as a purchaser. And I think the process in Georgia is pretty similar as in Romania, but in this case, it was a piece of land. It was a small piece of land, and it was a smaller amount. So I had this experience going to a government office, and they also have a bank there, right there. And there was a very small piece of paper, very simple contract that here's the buyer, here's the seller, this kind of amount will be transferred to this kind of to this account. So we both signed, and then there was this freezing moment. And tell me, Alina, if it's different. The seller tells me, okay, you transfer the money to my bank, and then I'll sign the title. And I'm thinking, which one is going to be first?
It's true. You know, you might be shocked, but you do not have to keep the money or the deposit into an escrow account. In Romania is the same, but you need to make the proof, you know, to the title that you deposited the money into the seller account. You know, I did that too myself. I actually bought another property about 5 years ago in Romania. So probably my experience is very timely and new. And it was actually a little bit of complicated, you know, experience. I'm not going to get into it and the type of properties you can buy in Romania, but I actually sold something as well in 2019. You know, I sold a property that I've owned for more than 20 years. My first actually ever piece of real estate that I bought in my 20s, and it appreciated quite nicely. And I used a realtor when I bought it, not a realtor, a real estate agent. I didn't know APAIR at the time. I was just becoming the liaison between NAR and Romania. I would say that the agent at the time didn't have the same fiduciary responsibility we have here. So they don't have legal obligations. You really need to do your own investigations. But if you do work with people at APAIR, who is our members, all of them, absolutely all of them are realtors. So you know that they're also IRMs. They abide by the same code of ethics as do. They do the same courses we do here, sellers representation, buyers representation, the same accredited rebuy courses and rebuy courses. And they will help you a lot more than the usual agent in Romania. And this is what we advise and recommend to everyone. They do work the same way as we do in United States. But other than that, you will have to ask for referrals, for attorneys, for structural engineer. If you buy a property that it's old and it's at seismic risk, for attorney, for, of course, a notary that will represent you, for an attorney that will create an LLC for you. So it's good to look for an agent who can connect you, because you don't know when you go in another country, just like in every other country. It's the same in Romania as well. But I would have to say by using the notary, fraud is you would be, of course, nervous to transfer money into the seller's account, but this is the way it is.
I was, and I had to, finally I
To have
did,
faith,
okay.
yeah.
Faith, yeah. So I just transferred, and the funniest thing was then the seller immediately withdrew the money from account, got the taxi and left after signing the paper. And I was thinking, seller was not even trusting the bank, just like.
Another thing that is very interesting, that when I sold either the buyer or the seller, they would like you to open an account to be in the same bank as they are to avoid fees. They don't want interbanks transfer fees. But, many times it's something negotiable. But the notary is always involved and knows about that. And this is actually your warranty, because you don't transfer the money through the notary. Notaries do not want to have an account, an escrow account for clients.
And Alina, I believe you are kind of more on your own when you purchase or sell the property, especially when you purchase. It's your responsibility to check on liens on a property, unless you want to hire the attorney or someone who can check for you. Because
it's
even
true, but if you hire a realtor from Apair, they will actually help you with all that. They would be able to pull a record for you from the registry, from the title registry. They would be able to immediately employ a notary that will work for you for the duration of that, and they will check all that for you. That's otherwise, of course, if you don't want to use a real estate professional and not somebody from who is a realtor, then you will have to do that on your own. But if you do hire a realtor, they will assist you with that. Oh, I guarantee.
Absolutely. You want to ask for a realtor. I can't say enough. When I travel, I always tell all my colleagues and anybody I know, because also over Facebook, I get lots of people contacting me about real estate since they know. I'm sure same happens to you, Alina. Somebody calls you from Romania or elsewhere in the world and asking advice how to buy or do business in particular countries. And I always direct them to our IRMs, the realtor members of associations, even knowing that the referral system doesn't work the same, right? In Romania or places like that, like in US, it doesn't work the same. They just take it from you, but they never actually.
No, they do. They do reciprocate.
They do?
You can ask.
They
you
do?
can actually no. I think that everybody who is connected with NAR and even others, because there are a lot of U.S. companies there. You have Remax, you have Keller Williams, and they're used with the U.S. system. They will offer you a referral fee if you ask for one. And if they will refer you somebody here in the U.S., they will ask for one as well.
See, Romania is ahead again. So the Georgians, I keep referring lots of business, but I never even mentioned, because I know they are not used to this kind of business. So but Georgian nationals who are realtors in US definitely did. I was just recently, I referred somebody to New York. There was another Georgian buyer, needed a Georgian speaking realtor, and it worked very well. I already forgot about it until the check arrived. So it's, so it works out.
So are the referrals about 25 to 35%? The reason I ask is our kind of standard referral fee domestically is about 25%, although I just had a luxury property and they wanted 35% from California. So what would be the international or Romanian referral fee? Would it be about 25%?
It's negotiable. You have to talk to them. I think it depends on the amount. If it's something that's $100,000, you just have to, decide how much it is. I personally never ask for one when I referred, but I could. And of course, everybody who refers should. I think would be 20 to 25. That's how it is. It depends. As you said, if it's a luxury property, you might want to ask more, and it's negotiable.
And
in Georgia,
I never ever had asked Usually when I have buyers or sellers, I refer, but I even tell you the truth, I even felt a little awkward to ask them to pay me for this because association is really just started to shape.
Sure.
And there are so many other things that I think is very important to get in a shape, American type of, like, just like Dan Negulescu says, copy paste, because ideally it would be if we could duplicate the American system, right? So many things would work very well. And the big thing also in Georgia is that realtors in Georgia work on a smaller commission fee. Usually their entire commission is 3%. And if there is a buyer's agent, they split it. So they end up sometimes with 1% or 1.5% commission. And then I felt like if I ask now another 25% referral fee, I won't do it. Let them be happy just to sell something and do it within code of ethics and NAR values. That makes me already happy.
I do have a question. With how uncommon it is to use a real estate agent in Romania, how much do they charge? I mean, who pays for the buyer's agent, or who pays for the listing agent? I'm guessing that the buyer pays for their own agent.
At Apair, they push exclusive representation as we work here. Actually, most agents there, or actually all of them, they work exclusively. They take listing. That's also very unheard in Europe because nobody does that. Everybody works as an intermediary. So based on that, they do charge the seller, usually 2.5 or 3%, but sometimes buyers will come without representation. However, they work for the seller and buyer comes unrepresented and they don't charge a fee for the buyer. If they work in intermediary, as most Europe does and most of the world, then every agent is paid by its own client. The buyer's agent is paid by the buyer and the seller's agent, it's paid by the seller. Again, as we do not have fixed commission here in the US and NAR doesn't advise us to talk about it, it's also negotiable. It's not a fixed amount, it depends. It depends of the value of the property. It depends how much they negotiate. But typically an Apair agent tends to charge as much as we charge here for a seller's side. And they do put the listings in MLS and they invite other agents for cooperation versus the ones who are not members of the Apair and they like to represent both in the same time.
So, Alina, so basically in Romania, the commissions are between 2 and 3% on the seller side, right? But
but I wouldn't venture to say anything about that because I really don't know. If they are like that and if they take exclusive listings, the commission is reflected in MLS for everyone to see. It's very up there and very public, which is very transparent, just like it's here, obligated to disclose. If it's not, then it's an intermediary thing and, it's not there.
But if I choose to come with my own agent, obviously I am responsible to pay my agent to be represented, correct?
Then again, depends, some of the sellers will pay a higher commission and they understand that they will split, the agents will split the commission among themselves and some others might not want to. And in that case, the buyers might come without an agent. They do want to collaborate with other agents and have an agent on the other side.
Looking at our next question, it looks like you guys kind of covered it when we were discussing financing opportunities for foreigners. So the question was, are there purchasing restrictions for foreign buyers or investors? And if so, what? And I know that you said that there may be some restrictions with regards to commercial, waterfront, agricultural, or land restrictions. Did I have that correct, or is there a little bit more to that?
No, it's correct. It's correct. It's the easiest to buy incorporated properties, and a lot more difficult for a non-foreigner to buy unincorporated, land such as agricultural, forests, and so on that would be considered natural patrimony. and you need to even have a local Romanian partner or to form a local entity. So yes, that's correct.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, this one's kind of always a little bit interesting. Are there different states with different laws or different territories? Here in the United States, each state has its own different set of laws, and we've noticed it's pretty common also over in Australia.
No, it's a state with one law. It's a country of 20 million people, probably 19 right now, because some emigrated or they went to work in Western Europe, and there is only one law, but they might have local decisions on local municipalities based on something particular that they will vote, in the local council, but the law applies everywhere.
So, Alina, 41 counties, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes, there are
41
counties, but it's not a
Bucharest.
federal. That is not a federal country. Yeah,
It's run centrally, kind of, right?
exactly. It's
Everything
centrally
comes
run.
it's a vertical approach to the law. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Did you say
The government has a representative.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The government has a representative in every county, and then of course they are the local official elected mayors and local council. Sorry.
Awesome. No, you're great. Thank you. And that was 40 different counties?
41 and a special municipality of Bucharest, the capital, right? So Bucharest is like self-governed city. I believe that's correct, right, Alina?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
You two are so knowledgeable.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, going into the cultural differences, and I think that's where you'll bring in a lot about Germany. Can you tell us a little bit about the cultural differences and what's with the relationship with Germany?
Well, Alina. You know your country very well. Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's a particular, Romanians traditionally, they've been very Francophile and Francophone before, it was a great tradition to learn French. And even Bucharest, it's called the Little Paris because the architecture, it's very resemblance Paris a lot. We even have an Arc de Triomphe in Bucharest. And some of our boulevards are wide, and they were very, Paris influenced, in the way they looked. Aside of the fact that, of course, we have a lot of ugly communist concrete buildings that they are still, all over Bucharest. You will see that contrast in all the cities and in Bucharest as well. But Romania is I would say it's homogeneous, but we do have, especially in Transylvania, a big Hungarian community. That's actually the number one community. We have Germans, and after the 1990s, when Romania opened, you could see a lot of business community flourishing, international business community flourishing, Italian in particular, French, German, Dutch, Turkish, Persian, Israelis, and so on. So I would say, if we are to talk about the cultural differences, Romania is a European Union country, is a European country. A lot of things will apply where it will be similar, but we do have the communist past that you have to consider, and things that they're not resolved yet. We still have corruption problems, and, it's something to be expected in Eastern Europe and something to be prepared for. But other than that, it has to comply with a lot of European Union regulations. They imposed a lot of anti-corruption legislation and measures. And you will see when you visit Romania, they are, for example, French grocery stores, or Belgium at every corner of the street, like Mega Image or, Carrefour and so on. So very much feels like Europe, but with a little bit of a flair.
But you also have a history of monarchy before the communist governments, and
which was German, yes.
Yes, and
that's
then
true.
You had the German kings, which is pretty unique because like in other countries, it's very seldom. Like, for example, Russia had a German queen, Katharina the Great was actually German. And if you really look at the bloodline, you will see how the Germans actually ruled in many different countries in Europe. And so Romania was, I think, one of the most favorite and most loved kings was the German king, correct, Alina?
It was a German dynasty. There were three of
Dynasty.
them in a row. So it's the Hohenzollern dynasty. But considering a long reign of communism, it was a little bit of a severed relationship because the last king of Romania eventually went and lived in Switzerland. But he was buried. He passed away a few years ago, actually, at advanced age. And he was buried in Romania, and he had very welcoming and very, very warm funerals in Romania. People were very, receptive, and they went to the funerals in big numbers. And the perception, the monarchy perception actually has changed because immediately after communists, he was not welcomed in Romania, but then he became definitely welcomed, and yes, he was buried in Romania. And also the palaces that the royal family used to have, there are no museums, and they are able and available to visit to everyone, and they are very beautiful. They're one of the attractions in Romania with big lines, visitor lines.
That's fascinating. You're making me want to go there.
It's a republic now, however. It has a president who also happens to be of German descent in Transylvania, who used to be the mayor of a important city of Transylvania, and he's also German. So yeah, Gizo is right.
There are lots of Germans, and when I lived in Germany, then actually one of my first employments, another guy was also Romanian, and my dentist was Romanian, but these were the Germans who came back to Germany from Romania. So I think you had a big colony there, big larger population of Germans.
But I don't want people to be under the impression that German is a largely spoken language in Romania, because it's not. It's in Transylvania. English is right now, like most of the the younger generation. Everybody speaks English right now. I mean, most of people will speak English in big cities. And also because Romania is an important tech hub right now for Eastern Europe and for Europe. So actually, one of the cities, it's called Cluj in Western Romania. It's considered one of the hottest and biggest high-tech hubs in Europe. So Romania is big in tech. You see a lot of important US and Western companies establishing offices in Romania. So English is the language right now. And French as well. You see people still learning a lot of French, and Italian. Italian is very easy to learn for Romanian. It's the closest to Romanian, who is also a Latin Romance-based language.
Okay, I'm just not going to go. How did the whole vampire Transylvania thing take place in Romania? I mean, I know there's no vampires there. At least I'm sure there aren't. But do you know how that happened?
It's actually, it is a legend, but it started because of this very cruel ruler that Romania, one of the Romanian countries, had. His name was Vlad Țepeș, and he was a great warrior and war strategist, but he was also very cruel, and he used to impale literally his enemies and the subordinates who disobeyed, or they would do something not convenient to him. So yeah, that was true. It's true history. Of course, cruelty was everywhere in the medieval times, but he was doing that, and I think based on that, the novel appeared, which was written by the British author, and it became very popular. And I think that there is indeed a palace in Transylvania that it's attributed as being his home, but he actually just spent a night there, being imprisoned there. But everybody refers to that castle. It's called Bran Castle as a Dracula castle. I guess we can make it a publicity, and we should make some Dracula land or something like that, like a Disneyland version. We should market ourselves better.
I'm sure it's great for attracting visitors to the area, and it could even maybe be helpful for real estate prices.
Yes, Dracula Realty. Maybe we can start something there.
There you go. Okay, well, thank you. We already talked about if there's an MLS and cooperating agreements, which there are. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Your the association for Romania, what is their name? And by any chance, if you have it, could you share their link in the chat on their website?
Sure, absolutely.
It's Apair,
I would
right?
do it.
Alina,
Apair, yep. You can do it, Giza, if you'd like. Yes, Apair.
Apair.
Yep.
Yeah, that row. Yeah, I'll just.
That's the Realtors Association. Is that the Realtor Association?
Yes, Realtor
Yes.
Association. Yep.
It's called actually the Romanian Associations of Real Estate Professionals, but as I mentioned, everybody there is a realtor and an IRM, and they're very proud of it. And you know what? Here is the thing I wanted to tell you about MLS. They even have an MLS committee. They started that, and they tried to implement exactly what we have here. We have rules for the agents and to pretty much police all the wrongdoing is in a market if everybody violates this clear cooperation that they have through MLS. It's to understood that if you are a realtor, you are a member of Apair, you are a member of that MLS, which they do exactly as we do. They do CMAs based on that. They have comps. And it's actually very cool. If you need something in Romania, for example, I recommend, somebody asked me to advise them on some estate probate sale in Romania. But the lady was here in San Francisco, and I simply went to Dan Negulescu and I asked him to do a CMA for that property. And I presented to that conservator here in San Francisco, and she was impressed. Because I haven't seen that in any other country, a CMA done like here.
It's an amazing organization, actually, when you think of where they came from and how successful they established. I love how Dan says, copy and paste. You don't need to invent America, rules and tools. Do it like Americans did, and it's going to be successful. Obviously, there's more behind it, but it takes also right people and takes lots of effort to actually run it the way we do it in US, right? Because it took so long. But Romanians did really great job to, transfer this knowledge, this know-how, how we run the associations, how MLS works and everything, and make it their own. Because I know it's very difficult since not even many European countries never succeeded doing that, and Romanians did. So that's a big deal.
I just looked at their website. Pretty impressive.
Yes, looks good.
They have classes nonstop. SRS, because another thing that I like to tell you, and why it's good to work with somebody from Apair, is that they even a few years ago, we started this program with Train the Trainer in their own languages, to have accredited programs, to get accreditations and teach accredited courses via NAR, but in their language. So Romania has 3 NAR accredited trainers who train their members and the real estate professionals in their market in SRS and ABR in Romania. Actually, I think it's only SRS for right now, but ABR is coming. And they've been very, very successful. They had hundreds of people going through courses.
That's incredible.
They have a partnership with Rebuy.
So does that mean that in the future, if we want to take a new designation course, that we can possibly go to Romania to take it?
In English.
You could, yep. You could take it in English.
Yes.
They teach it in Romanian as well, because it saves costs and it makes sense. And they have one of their own doing the course, and that was a great program. And we'd like actually to expand this throughout region. We will we'll have an event regarding this coming up soon. Would like to have as many local trainers in the countries where we have associations and partnership with NAR become NAR accredited courses in their own countries, in their own language. That's part of our region goal.
I love it. Impressive. Okay, so then I'm sure that they do trade missions. So have either of you ever participated in a trade mission to Romania or had them come over here to the US that you're aware of?
Alina definitely did participate in Romanian events, and I definitely have seen IRMs and Romanian association members visiting US NAR conferences almost every year. Actually, I have not been visiting them as much as they've done, because my first meeting with Romanians was 3 years ago. That's when my entire global journey started with real estate. Until then, I never went to any conference because I was too busy selling real estate. And I always said, oh, that's a lot of waste of time. But once I went to a conference, to NAR conference, I got literally hooked into this energy. And it's so great to be there and meet people and learn what's going on nationally and globally. And Romanians have been always represented with larger number of realtors coming to those, and they would come earlier and they would stay longer in US, because once you are in US, obviously you want to, beyond conference, you want to see and you want to travel and visit different places. And I know Romanians, their association does events pretty frequently. Exception is this year when we had pandemic. I think they skipped this year for the event.
Right.
But I believe Alina, myself, and few other realtors from United States are planning to go to Ukraine event. It's a neighboring country to Romania. And after that, we're going to use this opportunity to visit Romania. And like Alina says, once you visit Romania, they'll create event for you.
Actually, in 2019, for the first time, there is a big housing fair in Romania, in Bucharest, which is biannual. And together with Apair and Dan Negulescu, we had an NAR stand for the first time. You know, we partner with them. And we have an NAR stand in there. And we invited people from FIAPSI as well, but we had an NAR stand where we talked with developers. There were a lot of developers there as well. And the idea was to also make them understand how important it is to cooperate with agents, because a lot of developers outside US do not collaborate with agents, you know, on a buyer side, and they don't want to pay commission. The idea was to attract as many as possible. We had some developers that they actually were sponsors to one of the SRS courses, which was taught by Zola Sedekesh, actually in Romania. So it was a big event. We invited, actually, it was like a trade mission, because we invited other NAR partners from Ukraine and Georgia and Serbia and Greece and Hungary. So it was an event that we created that was an international event. That was in October 2019. So after that, as you all know, we all been granted.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, this last question you may or may not know, but because we are so virtual right now and so many people are still not ready to travel, are you aware of anybody doing any type of virtual tours of Romania in the upcoming months that we might be able to share with our members on our committee and within our state, just to show them how beautiful this country is?
Not yet, but if you wait a little bit until June, maybe we can do one for you. I mean, why not? If we'll make it there in June, maybe we can organize something. This is something, it's something a little bit on hold, because Romania, like the rest of the Western Europe, has had a lot of lockdowns and closure complete. And right now, like in a lot of other countries and Georgia too, they kind of rolled back and closed again for after the Easter. The Easter for the Christian Orthodox is on May 2nd. So, you know, they anticipate people moving around and they wanted to reduce the traffic. They are on schedule with the vaccination, but again, they had a lot of complete and much stricter than here. You know, it was that you have to be home by 8 p.m. and
curfew.
just make sure, you know, you had some special permission traveling between cities and so on. So they've been having a lot of those, and that's why we don't know for sure what they can do and what not.
Okay. That's all awesome information. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice meeting you.
It was very nice meeting you too.